the death of Infoproducts. Dun, 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 dun. Infoproducts are dying, and I know that's hard for some of you to hear, but it's the truth. The good news off the back of it, because I'm not a doomer, is that there is a new business opportunity that's coming off the back of it and starting to gain traction. And it's something that me and my inner circle are taking advantage of right now, and that's what I'm going to explain to you. So Daniel made $9,000 in 1 week because he's using this different model. So did Tiffany, $39K in 45 days. She started with just 6 LinkedIn posts. Connor, $20K in a month when something clicked. And Leanne, $60K AUD in just 9 days. And then obviously my humble results, 161,000 USD in a single month off one income stream. So I don't tell any of that to you because I want to brag. I want you to see that this is real and actual people are doing it. And there's a lot of bullshit artists on the internet. And so this just gives you a bit of a flavor of what some people are doing. And we're going to break that down in more detail. So all of this means that there's still money to be made if you know where to look. So it's still possible to work from anywhere, never have a boss again, travel when and where you want, get paid for the results, not the hours, spend more time with family like I do. All of that stuff is still there. It hasn't disappeared. It just looks a bit different. So here's a picture of me. This is with my daughter. I'm all about building family-first businesses. So not Lamborghinis, not buying mansions, but just hanging out with the family more. That's why I do what I do, and maybe that resonates with you. So I'm Tim Denning. I built a 7-figure-a-year info products business. So I'm very qualified to talk to you about this. And a year ago, I actually shut that business down. And people were shocked. But to me, it was stupidly obvious where the market was heading. And all you really had to do was like obsess over human psychology and pay attention to people's behavior. And I think it was obvious. So I'm a practitioner of this topic. I spend my entire day doing exactly what I'm about to talk to you about. I'm absolutely obsessed with this topic. Some days I'll spend 12 hours in a non-stop flow state just working on this. So nothing you're about to see is like clickbait. It's all real. And I want you to pay attention because this video probably will change your life. And I don't say that lightly. So if you're trying to make money online or build a digital business, you're probably in the right place. You may not know what your paid offer is or what will resonate with the market. That's quite common. You might have tried to sell courses or info products or failed over and over doing something similar. You may have had a couple of clients just come out of nowhere, but you have no process to get more and the income's not very predictable. Or you may have gotten distracted trying to build an audience first and assume that you would just magically make money if you just built this mythical audience. And these are all things that I've seen. So if you are one of these folks, I don't believe that you're lazy or you're low intelligence. And I know that's what the gurus will say, but I disagree with that. In fact, I think you're probably above average because you're actually taking action and you're in a place like this. But it is likely, though, that you're taking action that maybe doesn't work anymore. And a lot of people haven't got the memo because they're not in it every day like I am. So if you're trying to run a digital business and it's failing, it's probably just because you're using the old playbook and you may not realize, and that's fine. So I'm going to flip the switch for you on this video to kind of show you how this works. So let me introduce to you Infoproducts 2.0. But before we do that, I want to give you where we came from. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you very clearly the beginning of where this Infoproducts trend came from, and then how you can kind of use it to sort of start or scale your digital business, but in the 2.0 version. So these are the mistakes that you could be making that are holding you back. And this is Infoproducts 1.0, right? So here are the rules of the Infoproducts era. First, you must sell low ticket stuff. And what does that mean? It means paid offers that are below $1,000. Now, some examples, right? Templates like the Notion software, workout guides, planners, spreadsheets, all that kind of stuff, right? Ebooks, courses, you know the drill. That was one of the rules. Second rule, sell high volume. So you have to sell a shit ton of stuff to make any real money because the price is very low of a lot of this low ticket stuff. Logical, nothing mind-blowing about that, right? Next, you needed to have some sort of celebrity status. So you had to create this kind of like aura that buzzes around you. And you had to like worship personal brands and become popular. And so if you looked like sexy, smart, or happy all the time, it was pretty easy to sell stuff. I'm none of those things, so it was never fun for me to operate in kind of 1.0. And then the next rule is you have to run paid ads to get more attention. And so this is where you'd buy ads on, Facebook, Instagram, Google, LinkedIn, Meta, all that kind of stuff, right? And then the leads that you would get from those ads would be what we call sort of cold traffic in the business, right? And that means that the people didn't know who you are, they'd never seen your content before, and you'd buy these leads and they would cost you anywhere from $30 to $1,000 a lead by buying these ads on these platforms. And that was regardless of whether they even spent any money with you. You had to pay for the ads. So it was expensive. So if you were scaling up in this Infoproducts 1.0 era, that meant that you spent a bunch of money. And then when you did that, you needed to make that money back before you even made any money at all. And so that's when things got a little bit tricky. And that's because of these next kind of points. So the next rule of this era was that you had to build first and then get paid. And so Infoproducts 1.0 meant that you had to build trust long before you ever asked anyone for any money. So the mantra was like build, 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 and then sell later or one day, right? And this is the most dangerous part of the Infoproduct 1.0 era because there's a lot of flaws, and I'll kind of get to that in a minute. The next rule was you had to create this big hype and have these launches and promotions, right? And that was required to convince people to spend money. And so because the products that you were selling in this era were often intangible, you rely on a huge amount of hype and use that to kind of like build trust. And so if you want some examples, and again, not to throw shade on these people, but these were some of the biggest people of this era. You had Sam Ovens with consulting.com. That was before 2020. You had Grant Cardone with his online business tradings. You had Alex Becker, who had these like business opportunity courses. And all of it relied on these massive launch events, the aggressive scarcity tactics that they would use, and then just basically exaggerated ROI claims of what you would get. And that was just normal. The next rule was you had to sell during the right seasons. So since your product had to be low ticket, and since you had to get thousands of people to buy it to even survive, that meant that you needed to time the launches for when the market was ready to buy. So people spend money on low ticket products and services during some times, but not others. So they prefer to do it during certain times. If, a virus breaks out or there's a recession, it makes selling this stuff a little bit harder. And so, for example, Black Friday used to be when a lot of the digital products could like literally make you a millionaire in one day. That was real. And so then you'd have to match your promotions with the time that people wanted to buy. And that was tricky. So let me say right up front that you'll still hear stories of this type of low ticket business working. And the mainstream media, if you think about it, they absolutely love stories that sound impossible. And the Infoproduct 1.0 stories, they always do sound great because they are very impossible. So it matches nicely. And let me give you some examples. So Thomas Frank, he sells these Notion templates. His products are all digital. They solve real problems. He's got, managing project type templates, organizing content, all that stuff. He did millions of dollars a year. Here's one of the news stories about him making $1 million selling templates, right? Then you got Grace Beverly. She created a multi-million-dollar business selling digital planners. And so, how I turned my teen side hustle into an £8 million fortune at 27, right? Here it is here. Very clickbaity. And then Jenna Kutcher, she sells courses on how to grow on Instagram. She reportedly makes millions of dollars a year. Here's her story. You'll still occasionally find them. But these stories are, pretty riddled with stuff that they don't tell you. A lot of these opportunities, even when they did exist, were the equivalent of chasing, a lottery win. And the odds of success nowadays are absolutely terrible. So, would you try and do it? Probably not, right? Most of us are not going to pull it off, and it's becoming harder for reasons I'll get to in a minute. So, here's the catch. Almost all the stories that you hear are based on someone who started in this Infoproducts business more than 10 years ago. And so that's what they're not telling you, right? And so today that model is nearly impossible to pull off. And so why? Let's get to the 6 fundamental problems of why this is hard to do now and nearly impossible. So problem number 1, AI had an even bigger impact than we thought it was going to have. So we can now get information much faster than we ever could before. We can build these things called AI agents to give us essentially courses on what we want to know. And that means that having information is no longer a competitive advantage like it was in the previous era. And so that means you can create from scratch those templates that you used to pay $7 for using AI. So that's the first problem. Second problem is what Infoproducts 1.0 did to our hard drives. So you and me and everyone has a computer full of cheap digital downloads that we've never looked at. And don't try and lie, because I know that you do, right? So we bought courses and never did them, books that we never read, a bunch of templates we never used. And look, if you were part of the 5% or less of people who ever completed the course, you still ended up getting stuck anyway because you didn't know how the information applied to your situation. And so, analogy here, if your fridge is full of food, it doesn't mean you buy more food, right? So when your computer is full of courses, you're probably not going to buy more courses. That's the analogy. Problem number 3 is that audience building can't be hacked. And not all of us want to, right? So remember Thomas Frank that we just talked about? I mentioned that he made millions of dollars selling Notion templates. What I didn't tell you is that his YouTube page has 3 million subscribers. And I guess how long it took to do that? 12 freaking years. And most of you can't wait 12 years to be able to do that, right? So there's another solution and there's another option, and we'll get to that shortly. Problem number 4, the celebrity life has taken a surprising turn. So I don't know if you guys know the Asina O'Neill story, which is a good example, but long story short, she posted all those like polished, perfect content. So I think travel photos, food, fashion on Instagram and other platforms. And she did brand deals and she earned money from all the sponsored content. And she did well, but she started to really hate it. And so the pressure to constantly be perfect all the time got to her. And then the contrast between her online life and her real life just ate away at her. So this led to kind of loneliness, low self-esteem, anxiety. She felt pretty miserable, despite what some would call is a pretty good life. And then the numbers themselves on social media just started to define her self-worth, right? So eventually she actually deleted thousands of photos of her Instagram. She renamed her account to "Social media is not real life." And then she wrote these like crazy captions to expose what had actually gone on in the photos that she was posting after the fact. And then she ended up quitting or like stepping back from Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, and all the places that she was on. So my personal thoughts on this is I hate that whole influencer movement. It became disgusting. There was a bunch of people with these like rented Lambos and mansions and all this flexing and like, look at my muscles and six packs and designer handbags and basically my life is better than yours, right? And it just got exhausting. And so if you did succeed, you could get on a reality TV show, but like personally, I'm not interested in that. And honestly, fame is a nightmare. You lose your privacy and your sanity. And again, the odds that you become famous is the equivalent of winning the lottery. And if you want to read about how bad fame is, go and look up Tim Ferriss and what he's written about it. It's an absolute nightmare. And that's why you don't want that. So the new game that sort of replaces the influencer movement is to kind of get 5,000 followers on one social media platform, turn them into email subscribers, and make, I don't know, $100K a year or maybe $1 million a year running a real business with real clients. And so I love this mindset flip from Bill Murray. He says, if you think you want to be rich and famous, try just being rich first and see if that solves your problem. And I think that's a really good quote that sums it up nicely. Problem number 5 is that Infoproducts 1.0, they changed our brains. So almost everyone that was kind of making all this money during that era was using a lot of unethical and exaggerated and, let's be honest, downright false promises. And so let me know if you've heard this one before. Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini. Right? That came from Tai Lopez at the height of this Infoproducts era. And the video was pure clickbait, just designed to signal success and status. And we were sold all this massive transformation stuff for $500, and what we ended up with was a bunch of crappy videos. So there was clickbait, there was hype marketing, and it just got fatigued. We got sick of it. And there was too much scarcity and urgency and countdown clocks, and all of it just makes you look like a hack and makes you look no better than Tai Lopez himself. So that's a big problem. Problem number 6, even if you do build a big audience, you may come across this. So there's a girl named Ariana. She gathered about 2.6 million followers. She launched a clothing brand, and then she only sold 36 bloody t-shirts. And so she believed that the followers were loyal to her, but what she ended up with was an audience of freebie seekers. So if you just build an audience without a business in mind, you'll likely build the wrong audience for the business that you ultimately want to run. And so then you'll have to wipe all your social media accounts and essentially start again, which is not what you want. And so when you monetize on a following, you have to run these consistent launches. So yes, you can make a lot of money on Black Friday, but then you try and sell anytime between, say, like June and August, or like during December, during Christmas, and suddenly all the opportunities to make money are actually quite slim. And so if you don't make money during those good times, then you have to like survive on this famine until the next boom comes. And so what you end up with is like boom and bust cycle, which plays havoc on your mindset. So behind the scenes, the type of businesses that do this, they require these long pre-launch hype sequences. There's email funnels, webinars, upsells, affiliates. All of it's heavily scripted and energy intensive. And it's just not really sustainable or reputation friendly if you want to earn a living doing that. So let me give you the fundamental change, okay? Let's slow down. People no longer want more information. What they want is help with implementation and execution. So that's what you can deliver with an Infoproducts 2.0 driven business, and I'm going to break this down. So let's talk about the changes and how you can use them. So Infoproducts 2.0 looks like this. It starts with more of a focus on high ticket. So you can sell products or services sold for more than the 1,000 USD, and you can do that using Google Docs, sales calls, DMs, or emails. And then you have to sell more than just the information itself. And look, most people are fine with that when they discover that you can make 10 times more money. So that's the first step of this new era. The next step is that you can do low volume. So a dozen or so clients a month can make you 100K, and a few more clients than that, and you can probably make $1 million or more per year in this new kind of opportunity. Next is that you can uncover rich people, right? So they have like a monkey profile picture, no followers, they don't tell you their net worth. And so we focus on these people more in the Infoproducts 2.0 era because they make great clients and they're willing to spend more money than the cheapskates that just want to buy $50, digital products or whatever. Next, you don't need to run ads ever in this model. So because you don't need the millions of followers, you can post organic content on social media and basically get all the attention you need. And so again, I said this above, the people that I work with aim for about 5,000 followers on one platform, and that can easily get you to sort of 20K per month. You could probably get there with even less, to be honest. The next part of Infoproducts 2.0 is that you can book calls with potential customers, right? So instead of like going live to a whole audience for free, you can only speak to people with intent that actually want to buy from you, which is a big difference. So this means the tech stack to run a business like this is much lower. And so instead of automated funnels and tags and segmenting and welcome sequences, you can basically run a pretty lean business with just a Zoom account and a Calendly account, which is a big difference. Next part of this era is that if you hate sales calls, you can hire a closer to do the selling part for you. And whether you want to do that at the start or later on, it becomes an option in this model. So one weird thing about this world is that once you get good at selling on Zoom, you can literally sell stuff for like $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, or even $50,000. And it doesn't make much difference. It's still the same platform, the same skills, just there is a lot more variation on the price tag. The next part of this world or this new era is that you can make money 24/7. So you're not relying on these big launches. You're not waiting for Black Friday. You can just book a call and make sales any day, any month. And so all the seasonality is removed in this model. And finally, you can add custom AI and GPTs to your offer to enhance it. And so if you're someone that knows how to build custom GPTs or you're willing to learn, then you'll have even more value in this new era. And so what the GPT does is it filters the information for the customer so that they don't just get dumped with a whole lot of stuff. And it personalizes it to a degree, which is much better than the previous era where you end up with a lot of information, but much of it doesn't apply to you, or it's in the wrong order for what you're trying to do. So that's a big change. So now that you know what's at stake, imagine taking advantage of this new age. You can be sure that what you offer is right for this age of digital business. You can actually help people instead of just throwing videos at them that they probably don't need. And you can sleep easy knowing you have a clear process to actually bring in the business, which a lot of people don't. Now, if that's something you're looking for, here's how you can work with me. So email tim@timdenning.com, put in the subject line or the email body, let's build together. And then you'll be able to talk with us about how we can personalize a solution for you and position you to actually capitalize on the Infoproducts 2.0 era. So pat yourself on the back for watching this video. This is going to allow you to start or scale a digital business the right way without wasting your time on a bunch of BS courses. And like I said, if this is something you want to do, send me an email. Again, I'm Tim Denning. Make sure you take action on this. Don't just nod your head and feel smart. Go and take the action, and I'll see you next time.